Who are you and how long have you been teaching?
My name is Ashley Siegrist. I am the band director at Bayport High School, or one of the band directors at Bayport High School, and I guess this is, I think, my 14th year teaching.
Out of all the classes you could have taught, why did you choose band?
Ooh, well, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, and I just didn't know what subject that I wanted to teach. So most of the time through high school, I had already kind of decided, teachers had inspired me and I wanted to do the same for other students in my career. I was toying around with the idea of either doing something in the sciences because I was always very good at science and it always was something that I was, quick to learn and that I was passionate about. And then I also obviously really loved music and playing my trumpet and being in that environment. And by the time I got to my senior year, I kind of realized that I just didn't feel like I could ever not have music in my life, and so I decided to go the route of being a band director and teaching forever.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most of your students obviously have seen that you and your husband, Kyle Siegrist, co-teach all of your band classes.
Yep.
So how does it feel working with your spouse every day? Do you get tired of being together, or has it become like a bonus to work with each other?
I honestly, and this is the true God honest truth, I never get sick of it, and I feel like I'm living the dream. We used to teach in Houston, Texas, but we were in totally different school districts, and we used to come home after a long, busy day, and we would just sort of like do the dump of like what your day was like, what my day was like. We do that whole thing, and we talk about some of the challenges we were facing with students or staff, or what we wish could be better, or what we're still working on, or what hang-ups we would have, and we would help each other kind of figure things out, like, well, maybe you should try this, or talk to this person, or this is what I've done. And we'd give each other advice, and almost all the time we'd end the conversation with, man, I wish we could just teach together, because we have the same philosophies and we have the same way of handling things, and we have the same mindset when it comes to teaching students. And we used to say that all the time. So now that it's actually a reality, it is every bit as much awesomeness as I thought it would be.
That's lovely. It sounds like a lot of fun to be able to teach together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you and Mr. Siegrist always talk about taking that step forward with the band every marching season. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you've also taken a step forward as a director, and how have you seen yourself improve and change throughout your time here at Bayport?
Oh, yeah. I think, that's a good question. So we do believe in always kind of moving forward, right? And we do talk to you guys about that a lot. So it's great that that's something that you guys are hearing us say and internalizing it, because we do believe it. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, there should always be growth. So in our opinion, moving forward can be a lot of different things. Sometimes it's that it's physically, we're using props one year that we never used to use. Sometimes it's a musical challenge, sometimes it's how many people we're working with can be the new step forward, or if we're using electronics one year. So it all changes year to year, but ultimately we try to look at where the students are that we have currently, and how are we going to be able to appropriately challenge them? What's that next reasonable step forward for them that's going to push them without either being so overwhelming that they give up and hate it, or not challenging enough that it's boring, or that we miss the mark. So that's kind of part of the fun of our job, is kind of diagnosing that and figuring that out every year. And so part of us growing too is that our job's never the same. We don't have the same, and this is part of why I liked teaching band over science, is that our curriculum is never the same. We have the same sort of benchmark goals, like we have this concert here, we have this parade here, but every year we're working with different students, we're working with people that we've had for the course of 4 years of time. So our challenge, and where we always grow, is we have to constantly change up what we're doing, because our clientele is different, or that's the level of musicianship is different within each group. So yeah, I do feel like we grow as directors every year, because we are met with new challenges every year, and our job is to kind of maneuver through those and find a way to make a good balance of challenge and fun and entertainment and supporting our community. And there's just a lot of different things you're trying to make sure you check all the boxes on. So it's always a growing process, always a learning process.
That's really beautiful that you guys get to see that growth both with the band and yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Off of that question, with moving and taking that step forward, what do you see for the future of our marching shows?
So for the future of our marching shows and our program as well, I see our band getting bigger in general, and just kind of like how our guard has gotten bigger over the past several years. I think that we have the potential to even one day have a band that is 300 plus students, because if you look at our numbers as far as how many kids are in band at the 5th grade and 6th grade level, now that we're post-COVID and post-pandemic, things are more on track. We've got students that are being more successful at their instruments and are feeling, confident in their musicianship, which means that they're more likely to stick with it. And we're hoping that in a few years' time, we're getting a freshman class of students that's about 100 or so students a year. And so I see our program itself growing in size. Our goal is to still march everybody all the time and have a massive band out there that's, going to take up the entire field and have this huge presence. I also see our marching band, this year was a huge year because we did go and compete at not just one, but 2 competitions, including state marching contest. And I see us wanting to try to strive to do more of that, not because of the competitive nature of it, not because we're trying to necessarily win everything, but just to be able to get our students out in front of other bands that do something similar to them, and also to have the gratification for our students that they deserve of playing for an audience that is there to see marching band and is there to support what they're doing. I think that that's something that we plan to continue and maybe even grow upon.
Now, as you were talking about with the 5th and 6th grade levels and how you're expecting about 100 students per year, well over 200 band students performing on the field, and you have a lot of those band students for 4 years of their whole high school career. How is it from your perspective as a teacher to see your influence on their growth? Yeah,
I mean, it's the best. I mean, it's so much fun. It's very rewarding. We come in and we teach music, so of course you see them grow as a musician, right, from freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. But I think the most fun for me is watching them grow as human beings, because your mindset and the way that you act and interact with people and what you think might be funny as a freshman is not necessarily how you're going to act and behave later on as a senior. Your goals are different when you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Your priorities and even just who you hang out with, who your friends are, all that stuff changes so much. And where a lot of teachers just get to see students for a semester or for a year and they get that window of time with them, our window is so much larger that we get to see that growth. And so to see them ultimately end up graduating and doing something successful is a serious reward. The other thing that's fun on the other side of that spectrum is watching our new freshmen come in every year and saying, wow, one of these people will probably end up being a drum major one day. One of these people might end up being a guard captain one day. Or, maybe there's a future band director in this group of students. And it might be a little hard to find at freshman year because they're just so, just new to the idea of thinking about their future and what might be, for them. So it's hard to kind of guess, but we always try. It's kind of a fun little game we play, who's going to be our drum major from this group of students? And it's fun to see if we are close with our guesses.
All right. Well, we'll see if any of your current freshmen will become a captain of sorts.
I'm sure they will.
Over the years, you have impacted hundreds of students. You and Mr. both being band directors. Even so much that you guys have earned the title of band parents. Now, knowing that a handful of your students look up to you guys in that way, has it affected your relationship while working with them? Or do you feel like you've gotten a unique experience having that sort of connection with your students, or does it add a sense of pressure?
I don't think it adds pressure. I think it makes me feel good that I can be I think it makes me feel really good that I can be a mentor or a role model for students above and beyond just teaching them music. every family situation is different. So some of our students have great relationships with their parents and have the opportunity to live with both parents or to have that family environment that is a healthy situation, and that's great. Not everybody has that though, and so for us to be able to kind of step in as a trusted adult where there hasn't been one in the past is sometimes really rewarding. The other thing is that even in some students' lifetimes, I mean, there's ups and downs. So for us to be able to be a part of both, it's wonderful. Like, I love it when students come in and they just can't wait to share with me that they got accepted into the college they were hoping for. And I get to be that, cheerleader for them. And it makes me feel good that that's what they were thinking is, I just can't wait to tell them a Siegrist. I mean, that's really great. It makes me feel good that they want to share that information. I'm honored that they want to share that information with me. I'm also honored when a kid decides to tell me that their life isn't going so great or that they do have a big stressor that they're dealing with. I'm honored because I know a lot of students don't open up to their parents at home. And so if I can be the person that they open up to and be the bridge between actually pouring out what they're feeling and getting them the help that they need, or just being a listening ear, I'm all for it. It makes me feel very good that I can be that for students. The other thing too is sometimes parents need a little help. There's no manual on how to like raise a kid. So, when things get hard, as they always oftentimes do, trying to raise teenagers, sometimes even parents will reach out to me and say, hey, I know that so-and-so, my kid is struggling in these classes and we've talked their ear off about it and they're not really listening to us, but we know they look up to you. If you can just nudge them to get that chemistry grade up or something, that would be really great. And so if I can be a motivator of any kind, I'm always willing to partner with parents and partner with families. I'm willing to partner with kids. I'm willing to make sure that I'm whoever they need me to be, whether that's just their band director or something more, something in between.
That must feel absolutely heartwarming to have so many students look up to you. Now, only a few months ago, you accepted the Barry Manilow Project Award via a public voting process. Mm-hmm. What does that symbolize for you within your community?
I was so honored when I got the email saying that I had won. It was a huge, overwhelming feeling, not just because I was excited that there was this reward for it, but the thing that got me more than anything was that there were that many people that took the time to do the voting process. And it was a pretty brutal voting process. I mean, it wasn't like a you vote once and you're done situation. It was 51 days that they were being asked to log in and vote. And that's a pretty strong commitment. And I know that I had an army of people that were logging in daily to do that for me. I never, and I probably never will know, how much I won by. It doesn't matter. Even if I had lost, it was just really a nice feeling to know that so many people were willing to take time out of their day to do that. And so that's what meant the most to me. I know it wasn't just my students. I know it was partly my family's friends, the community, even the district. They went above and beyond to make sure that this stayed a consistent message that was going out for that whole 51 days. They put out all these different Instagram reels. They put out all these different posts and reminders and emails. And I felt so loved and supported by the district, which is something that our district does, whether you're being nominated for a Barry Manilow Award or not. I think our district does a really good job of making you feel like you are appreciated. And that's, I think, the biggest takeaway from the whole thing is just, I was so honored and floored by the amount of appreciation I was shown.
Well, congratulations on that win. On the topic of winning, mm-hmm. Now only this past October you received a 91 out of 100 points from the Is It Scary Wisconsin guys, and you made it to both of their Haunted Houses of the Year lists. Mm-hmm. What is it like being the mastermind behind it all? And what do you see for the future of Music Mayhem Haunted House?
Oh my gosh, you're right. It was absolutely the coolest thing ever, to not only just be on anyone's radar for doing a haunted house, but to be one of the leading haunted houses in Wisconsin was epic. It was really cool. So obviously I like Halloween. I've always liked Halloween. I used to plan what I was going to be for Halloween when I was a kid for months in advance. And that was back in the day where you didn't just go get your costume at Walmart or whatever, you had to make it. So I would spend a good amount of my time making my costume, getting really into it. And it was just something about it that I just loved. And that really never went away. When I went to Houston, that was one of the things I missed the most about being in the Midwest is they don't really have a fall. They just have a hot and a brown. That's it. There's no in between in Texas. And so missing fall and things like that led me to create sort of like a yearly fall party that I would have with all my friends. All my friends that had never carved a pumpkin before, I'd make them carve it. I would make them, do make apple crisp for them or have carameled apples or any of the things because I was just missing that fall piece. And when I was teaching in Houston, I happened to run across the pin on Pinterest of this specific hallway where somebody had decorated it with a bunch of just fake hands, and they were just all sticking out of the hallway, which sounds really weird, and it was weird. But I remember seeing that picture and not thinking like, oh, wow, I'm going to do that for my house one day, or, oh, wow, that's a cool way to decorate. I immediately thought, oh my gosh, what if those were real hands? And that would take so many people. And then I thought, wait a minute, I have those people. I teach band. Band kids are up for anything. So for a long time, probably the last, 15 years, I've had this idea of, man, wouldn't it be cool if a band ran a haunted house? And I just was too chicken to do it, honestly, and it was too hard with Texas and being like landlocked in a city environment. I just didn't feel like I had the resources. And so, I don't know, a few years ago, I was sitting in my office with some of the students that like to hang during study hall, and I mentioned it, and that was what happened. Is I had a student that really, once they heard that I had an interest in it, they just would not let me let it go. And I finally agreed to it. And now we've done 3 years of successful haunted house. And it's been a wonderful time. I mean, the first year we did it, I was so sure it was going to be amazing. And then we went to open up the front doors of the haunted house, and that's the first time I got nervous. I was like, oh my goodness, what if nobody shows up? What if we did this whole thing and nobody even comes? And it was quite the opposite. We had a ton of people. We had a line out the door. It was so exciting. And that was when we ran it just for 2 nights. The next year, I felt a lot more pressure. I was like, oh, we did this really cool thing. Now I have to live up to it. I have to make sure it's just as cool. And it was. Scary Wisconsin came. Is it Scary Wisconsin? And they hyped us up, and they were surprised, and that just fueled me more. So now in this past year, we had the added challenge of, because we went to state marching contest, having a much shorter time frame to work with as far as the build and all of the things that go into making the haunted house a success. And we pulled it off again. And so the future of the haunted house for me is that I don't plan on stopping. I think it's a great activity, not only because it's a huge fundraiser for our band program, but I also feel like the camaraderie and the bonding that happens between the students that are involved in the haunted house is just some of the best ever. It's kind of the same sort of bonding and family feel that you get out of an experience of being a part of a play or a musical or something like that, except squished into a very, very short time frame. And so I watch students be so proud of like the set they built or the costumes they made or the makeup they did or how well they scared somebody during the haunted house. And it's just really cool. I get to meet a lot of parents through the process because we ask parents to come and help with building. And it's just such a fun time. It's exhausting. Don't get me wrong. It's absolutely exhausting to do, but so much fun. And I think there's a lot of growth that happens from it too. I've watched students that have no idea how to properly hold a hammer end up not only doing that, but using drills and using nail guns or whatever the case may be, and they grow so much even in just their knowledge. It has nothing to do with band or music, but it has everything to do with the teamwork and just creating an environment that they want to be in. Because of the haunted house, we then have the money to fund a lot of our other passion projects, like the indoor drumline, the indoor color guard, the jazz band, everything we do in the winter, which I don't know if we could do without the haunted house itself.
What would you say makes your job so rewarding?
Oh, I would say students in general. Just it's really hard because there's a lot that is so rewarding about what I do. I think I've touched on a lot of them. I'd say the main thing is watching students become the best version of themselves because of their band experience, whether that is the actual just daily class stuff that we do, or if it's because they built their confidence, or because they found out they had another separate passion in color guard, or met their lifelong friends because they were in band. There's so many things that band offers that is not necessarily the specific music itself, but the entire experience of being in band. And that's what's so rewarding. Just watching the progression of any of my students and how they grow over the 4 years is just so much fun. And I do feel very fortunate that because I'm able to teach students for as long as I can, I have the opportunity to, make connections with these students that end up lasting a lifetime. I'm still in contact with many, many, many of my students that I started teaching back when I was 22 years old. I just got a text 2 days ago because one of my students just graduated and is now a surgeon. And it's just mind-blowing to me that not that long ago they were sitting in my band as a flute player. Now they're a surgeon. So it's just cool to watch them continue to thrive forever. It's very rewarding.
Well, that's awesome. And I have one last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite Bluey character?
Oh, man, that's really hard. So obviously, I am a Bluey fan. My favorite character, though, I'm not even sure that's possible. I guess I'm going to have to say probably Bingo. We'll say Bingo.
Good answer. Well, thank you for doing this interview. I've really enjoyed getting to hear your responses and getting to hear your experience with all your band students over these past couple of years. So thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Lola.